This woman was wrongfully imprisoned for her son's murder. In October of 1997, Julie Ray and her 10-year-old son Joel were asleep in their home when Julie was woken up from a sharp scream. She was really groggy, but immediately got a pit in her stomach, even though she didn't think the scream came from Joel. She got up and called out to him, but when she made it to his room, Joel wasn't in his bed. Only a second later, a man with a ski mask jumped across the bed and at Julie. This man was trying to get out of her house, but she struggled with him to try to stop him from leaving. As he made it outside, Julie grabbed onto his leg, but he started hitting her head into the ground repeatedly. As she lay in the grass, this man turned away from her, took off his ski mask, and just walked away into the night. Julie's first and only thought was, oh my god, they kidnapped my son, so she ran to the neighbor's house and pounded on the door, demanding that they call 911. But when police made it to their home, they found Joel Kirkpatrick laying in between the wall and his bed in a pool of blood. Things weren't looking good for Julie at this point, because although she told them about the intruder and what happened, the crime scene was a bit odd. It was very neat, nothing had been stolen, there were no signs of forced entry, and the murder weapon was a knife from Julie's kitchen. Which would have meant that not only did this intruder come to her home with the sole purpose of killing Joel, but he didn't come with a weapon. Police also believe they found Julie's motive. Julie and Joel's father, Len, had recently been divorced, and Len had won primary custody of Joel. So investigators believe that Julie killed her son to get back at Len, kind of like a if I can't have him, then nobody can. Which was absolutely outrageous because everyone who knew Julie knew how much she loved her son. The news of this grisly murder completely shocked this little town, rumors started flying, and tips started coming in about a strange man who had been seen around the town at the time of the attack. But because the police had such tunnel vision on Julie, these leads weren't fully looked into. So the case lagged for years because all the evidence they had was circumstantial. 3 years later, prosecutor Ed Parkinson was so sure Julie was to blame that he got an indictment from a grand jury and Julie was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. With a mountain of very odd circumstantial evidence and the fact that her attorneys wouldn't let her testify, Julie was found guilty. But here's the craziest part. A few months after the trial, Julie decided to give an interview to 2020 to basically testify to the world. And crime writer Diane Fanning just so happened to be watching that night as the episode aired. At the time, Diane had been working on a book about serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells, and Julie's story fit his MO almost perfectly. He had gone into people's homes with the sole purpose of unaliving young people, if you know what I mean, and often didn't bring a weapon. So Diane Fanning wrote to Tommy Sells, who was in prison, about the episode, but left out name, date, and location. When Diane received a letter back from Tommy, he gave specific locations and dates that matched Julie's story. And not only that, but the leads that the police didn't follow through on would have put Tommy Sells in their town and near Julie's home at the time of the murder. And he gave a 2020 interview where he confessed. Sells' confession obviously sparked new interest in the case, but prosecutor Ed Parkinson still believed that Julie did it. Thankfully, Julie was found innocent in the second trial, but not without a fight. Tommy Sells was already on death row at that point, so was never actually convicted for Joel's murder. But there are so many details you can't fit into a 3-minute TikTok, so if you're interested in hearing the whole story, check out episode 90 of my podcast called Not Today.